Brian's stance here is that we should raise taxes. And I want him to carry that
My stance is that we should raise taxes?
In this video, Benny Johnson joins a panel on Piers Morgan Uncensored. In addition to Benny Johnson, leftist Brian Tyler Cohen is on the panel as well, and they argue about Elon Musk and Doge. With that, let's watch Benny Johnson make a fool of leftist Brian Tyler Cohen.
Slow the horses down a little bit to make sure that as you roll out these very, very big things, you're not letting Americans who don't deserve it slip through the net, either being deported wrongly, losing Social Security wrongly, being fired wrongly, etc.
Well, look, I would say the easy analysis of this is to say that they're incompetent. And I do think that they're incompetent to a degree. But I also think that in large part, this is what they
Elon
want
Musk
to
isn't
do.
incompetent, is he? I mean, let's be clear. He's one of the most brilliant minds in America.
Which brings me to my second point, is in large part, this is what they want to do. I mean, they'll trot out their talking points, and Benny brought out one of these things that, you know, they're looking to just get the debt under control. They're adding money to the deficit, which is going to explode the debt even further. And so like this notion that we're just getting our spending under control, they needed to try to cut a little bit so that they can, including Medicaid and food stamps, $880 billion in energy and commerce, which will cut Medicaid, $230 billion in the Agriculture Committee, which will cut food stamps, to try and offset just a fraction of what they're going to add by virtue of $4.5 trillion for a tax cut that's overwhelmingly going to favor millionaires and billionaires. So we can say that they're incompetent for some of the egregious things that they're doing, but in large part, they're doing exactly what they want to do. They're not focused on the debt. They're not focused on trying to help people or make sure that they have adequate health care or grow, add jobs or whatever it is. They are doing what they need to do for the people that they're looking to help. And that is overwhelmingly people who are exactly like Elon Musk. And by the way, Piers, I would take issue with how you framed Elon, because he's not doing this as some benevolent, patriotic figure.
Well, he's not being paid.
He was under investigation by nearly every single agency that he and Donald Trump have gutted, whether through gutting the agency itself or firing the inspectors general. Department of Labor, NLRB, USAID, CFPB, EPA. And so this isn't some indication of like benevolence by this patriotic figure.
Yeah, but hang on.
He's deriving
being investigated or even sued. That's perfectly reasonable, normal business practice. It's whether those investigations or lawsuits lead to anything being actively over.
Can you imagine being this guy or being someone that watches him and saying, yeah, this guy represents me? He's such an embarrassment. What does Elon being under investigation by anyone have to do with it? Yeah, billionaires rarely face lawsuits there, Brian. Brian Tyler Cohen calling Elon Musk incompetent, maybe one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. So all these cuts they're making, Brian, you're telling me they're not trying to get the deficit under control, and they're adding to the deficit while actively cutting billions of dollars with a goal of cutting $1 trillion. I can't agree that people just don't do things for free. I can agree that Elon Musk may have an ulterior motive in this. However, it doesn't mean that ulterior motive is illegal. And I've said endlessly, if I see that Elon Musk is making some kind of move that is in his best interest but hurts the American people, I'll criticize him right there with you. I think it's good to be skeptical about anything anyone does with our government. But if Elon Musk gets something out of it and we deflate our bloated government, I'm really fine with that. Again, as long as it's not illegal or at the expense of the American people, that doesn't bother me. I guess it would have to happen for me to give a true reaction. I guess it would depend on what it is. But if the end result of this is uncovering waste, fraud, and abuse, cutting unnecessary government jobs, and shrinking the federal government, I'll be happy even if Elon Musk gets something out of it. I believe they added funding to the SNAP program or WIC or food stamps when they signed that continuing resolution. I could be wrong. But it seems to me the Democrats' only argument on this is gonna happen or this might happen. I think the litmus test still remains, does an individual feel like these cuts have really hurt their lives? Or do they know people whose lives it has really hurt? I do not know a single person yet And I've asked people on multiple channels, and that's just anecdotal, but this outrage is all fake because the American people aren't complaining about it. It's whiny little babies like Brian Tyler Cohen that are whining about it. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Overturned or then being punished for it. Trump is already on the record as saying, look, I will accept the ruling of judges on these things if we get challenged, but I'm not going to be blasted off my mission statement I made as a candidate. You know, many people would say, and I think there's merit to this, Trump is doing exactly what he said he'd do. And you might quibble whether they're going to reduce the debt or not. You can't tell after 10 weeks whether an administration can reduce the debt. You can after 2 years, and if they haven't reduced the debt after 2 years, then they're going to get a shellacking in the midterms and probably get a shellacking in the next general election. But I do think trying to assess whether what they're doing at the moment can reduce the debt is a bit preposterous after only, 10 weeks?
Well, it's not preposterous if you have the CBO score that shows exactly how much is going to be added to the debt. And so again, if you're passing it, I mean, it's just math, right? If you're cutting programs that don't amount to as much as you're adding by virtue of these tax cuts, then you are going to add to the deficit, and that's going to balloon the debt, which is to say nothing, by the way, of the amount of federal revenues that are shrinking by virtue of the fact that the economy is doing poorly right now.
Well, it is, except I would say, Benny, if I'm Donald Trump, that his own approval rating has never been higher as a president.
No.
I mean, it's never been higher. So
the Democrat Party's approval rating has never been lower.
The Democrats are at record lows, right? So Americans do not want to hear a word from the Democrats. They're done with them. They're done with the woke stuff. And they're actually pretty broadly supportive of Trump. Which is, I mean, if you're Trump, you're probably saying, I hear all the squealing. I don't care. I've got a mandate. I won everything in the election, and I'm going to deliver exactly what I said I'd do. And it might take him a bit of time, but I'm a little bit more patient about this. I think I do see methods of the madness. I do see the border being sorted. I do see an attack on government waste as being very popular with the American people, and so on. So I just think it's too early to say this is all not going to work. Demonstrably, some of it is working and is popular with the public.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
Here we go. The tracker right here, $130 billion in savings. That's $1,000 in savings per American household. Right there. That's what Brian says is adding to our deficit, which is
that the same tracker where they noted that $8 billion were cut when it was actually $8 million were cut? That the same tracker that they started taking credit for cuts that were made during the Biden administration? Just wanted to check if it's the same exact tracker that we're talking about here.
Brian's stance here is that we should raise taxes. And I want him to carry that
My stance is that we should raise taxes. All I'm pointing out is that the tracker
higher taxes. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, Brian. I want you to run for DNC chair. Okay, maybe you could take Harry Siston's job, all right, as the #1 DNC influencer, since he's getting canceled right now. You could take Harry's job. You could work with David Hogg, and you can run on higher taxes for American. And you can say that $37 trillion in debt is okie dokie to me. That's what you can do. And you can burn a Tesla dealership down while you're at it.
If you think debt
bring
is
that message
bad,
to the American people. I want you to do it.
If you think debt is
I want
bad,
you to do it. How do I make it happen?
I could end the video right there because Benny just torched this dipshit. The American people are behind Donald Trump. They're not behind your stupid side, Brian Tyler Cohen. Donald Trump's doing what he promised to do in the election, which is more than I can say for any Democrat politician. $130 billion in savings. And you said, is that the tracker that said they cut $8 billion when it's $8 million? So because there have been errors in the tracker, we should ignore it completely? Do you see how foolish your arguments sound, pal? And he laughs when he's like, Brian's stance is to raise taxes. He laughed. Well, Donald Trump is trying to uncover waste, fraud, and abuse to return more revenue to the federal government and to keep more of our tax dollars and spend it on appropriate programs and to reduce the deficit. How else are you going to reduce the deficit if you don't raise taxes? Even if you're not actively promoting raising taxes, do you want them to just stop looking for waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government? Because if that's the case, it's going to continue to get bloated and the end result will be to raise taxes. We already pay a crazy amount in taxes, and for years we've sat by and known that the government wastes our tax dollars. But no one does anything about it. If it doesn't get right, if it doesn't get done right now, it will never get done, because doing it in a slow and methodical way, as a lot of Democrats like to suggest, in federal government terms, just means do nothing or wait it out until people aren't concerned about it anymore and let business as usual go on. Anyway, let's wrap up the video.
If you think debt is bad, how do you answer for the fact that we are adding debt that based on the CBO score, we're adding debt, and your deity, Donald Trump, added $7.8 trillion to the debt during his first term? Where are these fiscally conservative Republicans?
Yeah, I don't want anyone to add anything to the debt. The vast majority of that came during COVID. We all know what a bizarro time that was. And I don't think that anyone's trying to defend that. Donald Trump has proven time and time again, he wants to cut government spending and cut efficiency, cut government spending, add efficiency, and cut our deficit. The deficit is a killer. You cannot run a household or a business when you are in debt. When you're spending $4, you take in $1, you spend $4. That's what the country is doing right now.
He's never done it.
He's never done it.
You keep saying that he wants to do things that he's never done.
It's like amazing. He's been in office for 2 months.
Well, he didn't have 4 years. Hang on, Brian.
Well, hold on.
Brian, he didn't have 4 years. He had 3 years and a pandemic.
The highest revenues.
It would have been
in the pandemic, but the
happened
highest revenues.
Without the pandemic, Trump's economic record in the first term would have been a lot better. I've always said
you can literally, without knowing exactly what they're saying, you can pick out a Democrat on a panel like this. Listen to his whiny voice. That's what they all sound like. It's unbelievable. Who would want to be associated with these folks? He's never reduced the deficit. I agree with you. In his first term, Brian, you're right. The government spent more than they should have. I agree with you. And like Benny said, I'm not defending that. You also did have COVID as a consideration, and that was his first foray into politics. So he saw what was going on, and this time he ran on reducing our deficit, and that's what he's doing. You've given him less than 2 months. Shut up. But we want to hear from you. What do you all think about the job that Doge and Donald Trump are doing? And what did you think about this debate between Benny Johnson and Brian Tyler Cohen? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.